design of modules, integration, technology conversion, stuff of that kind. So that is something that looks an immediate kind of weakness to me. So the question is, when we want to move to fabless chip design, which means we want to own designs that we can sell, we need to know what to design. So the question that crops up in the mind is, how good are we at knowing what to design that we can sell as an IP? So it's one thing to be a technical expert to do design given specifications. It is another thing to figure out what to design, what are the specs that would sell. Today, I believe if we know what would sell, we have people who can go about designing it because we have been doing design services for a long time. So the challenge is now to move up the value chain by being people who figure out what to design and where to sell. That involves connectivity, and that involves currentness of what we are trying to do. That is the part we need to move into. So how well are we connected in the system design value chain? System design value chain is a long chain, and how well are we positioned so that if we choose to design our own chips, we can sell them as an IP. Now, how familiar are we in general with the, well, not familiar is perhaps not the right word. How well are we prepared in a timely manner to latch on to the evolving standards and try to build chips for them so that we are contemporary? That's a part of knowing what to design. So that's very, very important. These are the issues to me. Once we do that, the rest is, technical exercise, and I believe we can do that with some leg up. It certainly can be done. So the question is, how good is our depth of knowledge in various current and future application domains that have a mass consumer market for IPs? Now, if you look at in the communication sector, we have 5G coming, various kind of RF front ends would be required, home appliances, transportation electronics, car electronics, connected car mobility, smart cities, clean energy sector, of course, the ubiquitous cell phone device, IoT. All of those are kind of areas where we need to figure out what is the evolving standard as the standard is evolving. My general observation has been, at least in the academic and research domain, I can say that you are not necessarily current in terms of being part of the evolution of the standards. So you are some years behind. And so by the time you begin to build something people have already built and are in the market, they have the first mover advantage. So how much are we part of the evolving standards so that so there is kind of a concurrent engineering. We are, concurrently defining as the standard is getting defined. And we are concurrently also planning architectures and implementations, their optimization, so that the day these standards are adopted or even initially published, we are there in the market with those kind of chips. So that part to me seems to be an area where, from my point of understanding, as a country, no arm of the country, whether it is academic, research, or industrial, seems very strong at that. Well, then there are the other areas which could be part of Atmanirbhar Bharat, but let us be very clear, in microelectronics, there is nothing like Atmanirbhar. You have to be plugged into the global technology chain smack well, or you don't exist. So you have open source hardware around RISC-V, which is emerging. it has quite the potential of a Linux kind of thing to happen for companies to add value, take on this public domain. So there is an ecosystem around that, building of chips, building of various interfaces. So all kind of interfaces to be built as are required in any system. They are another area where we can really move up. So then there is the area of domain-specific architectures. We all know that Dennard scaling principle sort of never worked beyond 2005 or so, and that's why we don't see chips being clocked at any higher rate than at about 3 gigahertz or thereabouts. While the Moore's law is still, it is huffing and puffing, but moving along. But the scaling has more or less crashed more than a decade ago. So what is it that gives one a competitive advantage in times to come? And I see only architecture. Better algorithms and better architectures and implementation of those architectures is what would be the differentiator. Because it is not going to be, you're already now touching 5 nanometer node, maybe you'll go down to 3 and that's the end of it. So just like the scaling crash, you would also have sort of a crash in foreseeable future for the lateral dimension scaling. And still, if you wish to compete, the only way left would be the plethora of architectures which are domain specific. They are optimized in terms of performance, power, speed, all of that. So that's why I am saying the new mantra for learning, at least in academic and research environment, should now be the domain specific architectures and their efficient implementations. So we can then come out with some IPs in those areas. That's another area we really require. The area around IoT, both the communication aspect as well as the control aspect, very frugal power, all that is again, you can connect it with smart cities. So all that again would require specialized architectures and specialized chips which meet requirements of that domain, including being self-powered where possible. So I would say that we now need to move up in terms of shaping the future, rather than being somebody else who shapes the future and we kind of be the wordsmiths to then give that shape a concrete shape. But the definition of shape of the future is something where we should be having our presence, so that we are part of the process of defining the future and not merely implementing it once it has been defined. That would be something that we would require. We would need, therefore, leadership in that area where we have the advantage of working at conception and conceptualization of future and the evolving standards thereabout, and working from there, rather than working when these things have been frozen and we become toolsmiths and worksmiths to do it. So I see a strong requirement in educational sector for architectures of different kind and system integration. There is more compartmentalization in that part of education. We would need to do that. Now, what kind of support would be required for validation, certification of the IP, etc., are questions that can be answered, they can be tackled, because they are more like organizational questions. But the earlier parts, as I had mentioned, zero time lag in the definition of future. That's something we require. And top-notch architecting to meet the emerging requirements. Now, what do we expect from the government? Governments, of course, can pitch in in several ways in policy making. There could be, to a certain extent, but only to a certain extent, obviously we should not depend on that, is the preferential purchase agreements in certain government procurement domains, uh, sometimes for strategic sectors, but they are too small to sustain. This is a large game. Unless we are global, we are not there. The other part is that, some bit of enabling in terms of the regulations of starting promotion of entrepreneurship, startups. There are issues that need to be raised. They can be raised. Government is already doing so much thinking, but this area is faster moving than other areas of innovation. So we might need certain special things. I think we need to highlight them. Government has set up a task force in which the industry is very well represented. Very well represented. We are trying to, gather in, pull in. All that is on the side of the government to enable. But there is so much more that the government cannot do anything about. It is to be done by companies, academic institutions, research institutions. On the human resource development side, as I said, I see architecting of large chips or architecting of systems as a weakness in the country, in the academic domain itself. So the academic domain needs to given a leg up in that area by a top-down kind of schemes. Government has a scheme called Chips to Systems. We'll have to take it up with them to strengthen this that much more. Of course, recently government has launched a challenge around RISC-V microprocessors that have been, open source hardware architecture whose implementation within the country and some tool chain is available, and they are asking for innovation to be done around those, which is of course a start, a good start, but it needs to go very, very far. So we need to really ask ourselves, where is India's unbeatable advantage in this game? Long back, I must share it with you. In 90s, we did an analysis and we looked at and we said, in technology, India does not have an advantage because we do not make high purity gases, chemicals, nothing. Our infrastructure is weak. It was very weak at that point of time. We are not a huge market, and therefore fabrication technologies doesn't suit us. What we said at that point of time was, and this is prior to 1991 liberalization, that chances are that whenever there would be a liberalization, there would be a need for engineering talent in line similar to what has happened in software services. There could be hardware design services. And we should really launch programs and we should be training people in that area. And it is at that time that the Special Manpower Development Program was started. And I must say it has been very successful. But this is, as I said, somebody else tells you what to do and you do it. Now we need to, that somebody we need to be ourselves. So that's the motion. So it's different. How to do, what to do. How to do, I think we are good. What to do is a different ball game, and we need to really prepare and get into that. So I guess my time is over. So I should stop at this point of time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar. Maybe I'll invite first JC, who has seen this very closely, being the past chairman of IESA, one of the core members for leading the SFAL and other initiatives that we are doing, to share his thoughts and get this going forward.
Sure, I can do it. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me for this conversation. I think Dr. Chandrasekhar has covered very well on what are some of the requirements, what is required, whether it is domain specific architectures and government policy initiatives and so on. Let me just get everybody give a little bit of a context of SFAL and why we started to think about it. if you really go, 2 years, back, when we started to think about, SFAL, which is, Semiconductor Fabless Acceleration Lab, that's what it stands for. It was not about, just doing fabless or, just looking at, what innovation or ideation we need to do. The idea was to look at what are some of the missing pieces in the electronics and semiconductor ecosystem in India, where where we need to provide either a support or bring in the attention of key stakeholders to ensure that we are not left behind in some of the critical aspects of electronics and semiconductor. So design, we already know India has been doing very well over the years, whether it is local services companies or MNCs that we do design work here. There is a lot of focus on manufacturing. There is a focus from the government. There is focus from the industry. There is this fabless piece, which either sometimes is mixed up with some of the services work we do, or not felt the importance of it in the long term. And the second the second problem we found was this innovation piece required lot of initial investment. It was not like something which you could do in the software space, bring in a product or an idea very fast to the market or to the test. So given all of that, like Dr. Chandrasekhar, what you said, we made two assumptions. The first assumption we made was not an assumption, but it was a truth that there is a very fast growing electronic semiconductor marketing developing in the country. The second fact was that we had lot of engineering talent in this space who, as was mentioned in the speech before, which was already doing work and designing chips, but for the global players in the global market. So we had the talent. We know there's a big market that is coming up. Now, given that these two facts are there, what could we do to enable now the fabless or the ideation in the fabless space happen from the country? And that is the whole idea behind SFAL, or the innovation that we want to boost up in the India ecosystem that happened. Now, the two or three things that we want to solve with SFAL, one is to be able to bring out the support for the companies who want to develop, who have an idea and want to develop a fabless solution, and they should be supported by some kind of a grant, and also a lot of expensive EDA tools and the IPs that are required to go through this journey. Anywhere it could be debated, but people have a $2 million to $2.5 million just required to get to the test chip stage, for a fabless company. So how can we provide that support right in the beginning? The second one was how can we bring in the whole industry together? Because one company may not be able to do that work by themselves. There were a lot of partners required. There were IP players, the EDA partners. We wanted government to come in and support it, and others. So we wanted to provide a platform where each of us could come together and provide the support that the fabless ecosystem required in the country. So that is what SFAL is. Now, what were the key ingredients to it? The number one, I think the government of Karnataka coming forward and saying, we would put in the funds for these companies or this ecosystem to develop, was very, very bold step, because this is not a 6-month, 1-year journey. It is going to take 4, 5 years to 7 years to make sure that we could, develop this ecosystem. The second one was, this was not initiated by, the big companies coming together and making a pitch for it. This was led by some of the fabless players and companies which were in this space, and the leaders of those companies which came together and did it. So if from government, I would want to compliment Meena madam, Ramana Reddy sir, and others. There were other players, Mr. Satya Gupta, or Hemant, or Anup, from the industry. These were the people who came in and developed the whole architecture of what requires to be done here. Right? Now, the goals are very bold. We want to make 50 fabless companies in next 5 years, develop 50 fabless companies in next 5 years. We want the SFAL to be totally independent in the next 5 years as far as money is concerned. But it's not about just these 50 companies or becoming independent. If 5 more SFALs can be created, then it would be a real ecosystem that we had. So it is not confined to just Karnataka or Bangalore. It is growing across the country. That is the ecosystem we want to generate. Now I'll just say it's a slow start. We have done some work towards it, and I will close by just telling you that the people behind it, Mr. Muthu or Brijesh and others, Ashok Mishra, who are really working on it. Today we have 29 fabless companies that these SFAL is engaging with. 3 of the companies are already working or have signed agreements to develop solutions. There are multiple EDA partners, Mentor Graphics, Synopsys. They will talk about what they are, how they are contributing. They have come on board. IMEC is coming on board. So the whole ecosystem, slowly is coming together to make sure these 50 happen in the next 5 years. We have great companies come out in the next 5 years from India, but maybe 5 more SFALs getting established across the country in the next 2 to 3 years. I think that would be the success that we want to bring in. I will close with, there are 3 things we still are missing. And I will point this to the industry, the government, and the academia. We definitely want industry to, put little more push and make sure some of our ideators, get more freedom, and maybe a freedom to an extent of coming out of the companies for a couple of years and become entrepreneurs and be supported by, the bigger companies. I think that is, something that we are missing right now in India. I would like, academicians, the professors, to be able to come and work within the companies for, a couple of years and not be confined to just the labs within the academia or institutions, but, establish and take advantage of using their intelligence to develop, solutions together with the industry and be part of, consortiums like SFAL. And finally, government. I think it was talked. I would want government to throw the challenges to SFAL companies and say, this is the challenge. If you meet that challenge, we would take your solutions and use those solutions. And are not yet coming from the government side to the industry. So I think I'll close with that. If people have any questions, I can answer. But I'm about how we can make this movement real and move forward to making multiple fabless companies become successful, and India be known for just not doing the design work, but people looking for the ideas that coming from India.
Thanks, Jesse. We heard the vision, we heard what you wanted to implement and starting point. Maybe let me invite Meena Nagaraj to share her inputs from the government perspective, the electronics industry, and kids. What is your thoughts and experience on this?
JC, thank you, Naveen. And I think JC pretty much has given a total overview of the entire ecosystem of SFAL. From the government perspective, Karnataka has been one of the key states which has been promoting the startup ecosystem across all verticals. I think we've already had a feather in the cap saying this is in the IT sector being the Silicon Valley for a very long time. And the state is now moving towards giving more focus on the electronic sector too. So, Fabless Accelerator Lab is an effort to address the pains of struggling semiconductor fabless ecosystem in an institutional way, providing efficient mechanisms that are required to bolster the fabless ecosystem. It is conceived as one-stop shop for India's fabless product companies and startups for providing state-of-art infrastructure linkages to the stakeholders of the ecosystem, network to mentors, industry and financial institution, and solution to ease the business opportunities. As JC mentioned, this is an association that is set up with Government of Karnataka and ISA. And this is one of the first of its kind in the country, and where 80% of the funding support of to the tune of about 22 crores is supported from Government of Karnataka, and remaining 80% is the funding that comes from the industry. As JC mentioned, we've put a stringent deliverables outcomes to this, where we expect that in 5 years we are able to achieve at least product companies or incubated support is about 15 number. We are expecting at least 12 companies exited and 5 companies, at least to be successful companies. As Professor Chandrasekhar sir said that policy making is one of the key areas that government has been working closely with the academia as well as the ISA. And the state has come up with the ESDM policy, which is an exclusive policy for the electronic vertical. Similarly, we also are one of the states where we also have a dedicated startup policy. For the last 5 years, we've been having several calls and 10 calls that we have completed, and almost 457 startups that we have funded to the tune of over 125 crores. So ESDM also, we have seen a couple of startups which are now getting incubated in SFAL, and we will continue to support this system. And in fact, we are coming up with the new startup policy next year, trying to bridge the issues and gaps that we have found in the first policy. The other thing is, to both speakers mentioned, is the preferential purchase agreement or a preferential policy for procurement. The state government is already working on that. Yes, understandable. Sometimes these things have a long haul. But we from the Department of Electronics and ITBT are already working on a draft. We are looking at several countries, how they have worked as giving preferential market access to startups. And probably at the draft, we are at the draft stage, and this would be circulated to all the associations to get some kind of a feedback. In terms of what Professor Chandrasekhar mentioned about enabling regulations, I would be happy to say that we are one of the first states who have come up with the Karnataka Innovation Authority Act, where it provides for setting up sandboxes, a regulatory sandbox, which I think would be, which we are already, the act is in place and the rules have been notified, and we'll be taking this forward shortly. And the state government continues to ensure that the cutting edge technology is well supported. We are all, other than the Center of Excellence of SFAL, in terms of IoET, Internet of Ethical Things, this is one of the budget announcements that we have done, and we want to ensure that it will see the light of day this year with IIITB taking over this project. And we are also looking forward to working on AI and translational research with the Indian Institute of Science. So just why I'm giving this backdrop is Karnataka government has always been forthcoming in pushing new things, and we've been closely working with both academia as well as industry to ensure that we are not left far behind. But as JC mentioned, there is still a lot of push that is required, and from the state government side, we will try to ensure that we are able to try to live up to the kind of challenges that the companies are facing, and we are able to have some kind of policies or innovation aspects that will help the industry have a better success in this state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meena ma'am. So I think we have heard the vision. We have seen what was the intent with which we started. We see the policies and the support that's coming from the government. Let me ask some of the partners who have been part of the SFAL, and maybe I'll start with Ruchir to share what has been his experience till now and what he's looking forward.
All right. Thank you so much, Naveen. Before I start, I must congratulate IESA for putting together this event in these times of uncertainty. Everything that our audience has seen since yesterday and will see are things that IESA is pioneering and trying for the first time. Putting together an event of such scale, all virtual, where people are in different places, and putting this together is a phenomenal accomplishment. So congratulations, IESA. Satya, JC, you are here. So personally, I thank you. Something that Dr. Chandrasekhar said, and he mentioned strengths. He used the keyword strength, and then he followed it up with weaknesses. So that caught my attention, and I thought maybe I should start off with that. There's always a debate on strengths and weaknesses. There are various schools of thought about should we build on strengths, should we plug our weaknesses, and how do we become better? So personally for me, I have always believed that strengths are the things that make us different from somebody else. It is our strengths that differentiate us. And I strongly believe that if we continue to build upon our strengths, we become stronger. And by becoming stronger and better than what we were yesterday, we become that much more differentiated. When I was thinking about this, I also was thinking of some examples, and I'm a big sports fanatic. The one name that has been in our minds for the last 2 or 3 days has been MS Dhoni, who just announced his retirement. So I wanted to take his example. When he came on board, everybody talked about how he is not a classical wicketkeeper, how he is not a classical batsman. But look what he did, purely working on what he was good at and making that better. Another example that comes to my mind again from cricket is Virender Sehwag, who transformed the role of the opening batsman in cricket. People complain that he doesn't have the technique, he doesn't have the temperament of an opener, and people might have tried to change him by identifying his weaknesses and asking him to change things, but he did not. So I believe that we should work on our strengths while identifying what our weaknesses are so that we can start at least being aware of them. So the first step is identifying strengths. So when I look at India and everybody who's attending this conference today, what is our strength? What is India's strength? Well, our strength is design, verification, and implementation. This is what we have worked on for years, and this is what we are known as really, really good at, or being really, really good at across the industry. And it's not limited to only international companies or India-based companies. Our ability to design, verify, and implement is amongst the best in the world. And these are exactly the steps that has made us known and so successful in the what I call as the fabless ecosystem. Because in India, we don't have a fab. Some companies do have a fab that have sites in India, but majority of companies in India that we all work for are fabless. So looking at those strengths and looking at the success that we have already created, how do we take the next step? The next step is defining what the market needs or identifying what the market needs. This is something that, again, Dr. Chandrasekhar talked about. Do we know that we have to take the next step to start creating a product for the market that the product needs, not implementing a product that has been designed or defined by somebody else? And I believe that startups are the best place for assessing market needs, because the larger the company is, the less nimble it becomes, the less sensitive to small needs of the market that it shows visibility to. So I believe that startups are the place where market identification happens and should happen, because startups have the hunger, they have the need, and they have the drive to go get some market share. The second thing is, we're talking of Atmanirbhar, we're talking of Make in India that we started 3-4 years ago. I believe that all of us now should start thinking about not just limiting ourselves to Make in India, but Make for India, and taking it to the next level, Make for the world. Because unless we start making for the world, whatever successes that we create are going to be limited, because the sandbox that we have drawn for ourselves might become very small. So having said that, I believe that SFAL is one of the most important steps from IESA, because that allows us to take what we are strong at, to take what we are good at, utilize it and make ourselves stronger. Because SFAL brings in the right ingredients to take our strengths and take them to the next level. Access to technology partners, and in addition to all of that, the collective intelligence of the ecosystem that becomes available to a startup when it becomes part of the SFAL ecosystem. So I'm proud to share with you that Mentor was the first EDA partner with SFAL, and we are very happy and excited to contribute and participate in the success story of SFAL. And more importantly than that, the success stories of all the startups will become cohorts of the SFAL program. And when we started working with SFAL, when we started doing some initial discussions, and believe me, we had many long discussions, some in good rooms, some in very hot rooms, but the intent was to do what is right for the startup, identify what a startup needs. So then looking at what a startup needs, startup essentially needs low risk, dependability, and flexibility, because a startup doesn't have the luxury of a very large corporation of things going wrong sometimes, and for them to having to redo something. The team sizes are small, the availability of funds is small, and the market windows are also very narrow. They have to hit the market window within the cost envelope and with the best product that can address the market. So essentially, they are looking at best in class in everything, becoming available to them when they need it and how they need it. So out of those discussions that we had with the SFAL team, I strongly believe that we now have created a platform that provides all the inputs and ingredients that a startup would need. We stay committed from Mentor to take this partnership going forward, continue to work with SFAL, and make sure that whatever the cohorts of SFAL need, we continue to work with these startups. I want to wish IESA, SFAL, and also want to encourage all the audience here who have ideas, who they believe are good ideas, who they believe are good enough to go take to the market, to take advantage of the SFAL platform, because this is the best place that you can find where you will get everything that you need under one roof. JC was very kind when he started talking about the people, so I will just name a few people that I personally worked with who are behind SFAL. JC, you were there, Satya, who is on this call, then Anup Datta, Ashok Mishra, Hemant Mullapur, Muthu, Vijesh, a great team of people who have put this platform together, put in a good significant chunk of their life into getting this platform to where it is today. I stay excited and committed and wish SFAL and IESA and the startups all the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruchir. That was very encouraging to hear from you. Both the success that you have versus what you look forward for. Can we also hear from Raja, who also has been the partner of this program, on what he has seen versus what he's looking forward to?
Thank you, Naveen. Let me first start with my association with the initial academic program that I had the honor of working with Dr. Chandrasekhar. Way back, this was when we started SMDP phase 1. At that time, the need was how do we make sure that there is enough talented pool in this country? And then the task was with the committee that was led by Dr. S.S.S.B. Rao. Dr. Chandrasekhar was part of it. From the industry, Synopsys was a very important partner. We played a very key role in terms of identifying why SMDP program is so important for this country. This was like 25 years back. And, having worked with them, we created this talent pool. Continuing on that journey, right, I was, as we were all discussing in this gathering, I was thinking of once again, we have come at a certain stage with respect to fabless design, which, Satya talked yesterday about how important this pillar is in those three, pillars for semiconductor. One is the, fab, and then the ATMP, and then the fabless ecosystem. And before me, a lot of people have already talked about the importance of having a fabless ecosystem and the roles each of it played. Now, for us to take this to the next stage, right, just like what SMDP did to the academic environment, right, I propose a new terminology, which is, I was thinking should be Special Product Development Program, SPDP, just like SMDP. Divide the country into north, south, east, west. Pick 4, important areas in each of these verticals. One could be AI, another could be Industry 4.0, a third could be fleet management, a fourth could be some, problems that we have in the domestic, country. That we need to solve from the diversity perspective. There are so many technological breakthroughs that we can do. As a obviously SFAL was the first thing I want to at this stage pause and congratulate Karnataka government. I've been associated with EDA chip design for the last over 2 decades, right? And I feel the first government that has taken a leap in terms of this fabless ecosystem is definitely the government of Karnataka. So first I want to congratulate Karnataka government for being an important part in kicking this journey off and making sure that a program like SFAL could be conceived. And then Ruchir has already taken a lot of names in terms of who are all pretty much. I've also had the pleasure of working with all these individuals to make this into a reality. Now, apart from thanking them, I want to get into this third stage where we really identify. Today we know with this unprecedented times, right? Innovation can happen in any place. So SFAL in the south in Karnataka is something that has kicked off. I would like to see similar effort in different regions of the country and make sure that we have a focus in terms of what should be the goals that each of this focus that we want to drive towards. If it is microprocessors, if it is artificial intelligence, if it's Industry 4.0, if it's fleet management, whatever it is, right? Once we architect that, make sure that the subject matter experts are associated with that group of people and ensure the success of these startup companies that eventually will become big semiconductor houses from India. I'm not a big fan of import substitution. I think that bus or that train has already gone. We should not project, import substitution as a way for products and solution. We should encourage the new generation in terms of creating differentiated value. Those differentiated value solutions can be focused to domestic market, but they have to pick up right from day one, thinking about how they are going to address the global market. Because today's generation, with the connectivity, with the availability of information, right, they understand the problems of the globe, and it's not necessary for them to do what, very popularly known as the jugadu, type of work. Semiconductor design is not about jugads. It's about perseverance. It's about making sure you understand the problem space very clearly, and then come out with a differentiated value. And there are enough differentiated values that I can myself think of, which, I'm sure, there are lots of good ideas out there where entrepreneurs can take up from the industry, just as what Ruchir said, from Synopsys side. As everybody knows, outside of ARM, we are the largest providers of all the IPs. We are very motivated to work with the fabless ecosystem in India, and we stay committed to this ecosystem. We've already provided lots of tools and made sure, the entry barrier of EDA tools doesn't exist. I'm sure we can work out more as and when we see a few successes. In the interest of time, I would like to stop at this point in time, and if there are any questions, please let them ask the questions, and we'll be able to answer. Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar. Thank you, JC, Meena Madam, and Ruchir on this panel.
Thanks, Raja. That was good summary. While actually I was observing the questions, many of the questions are some things that while you were covering about the ministry policies, what the support is, how are they enabled with EDA, IP, ecosystem, and all of that. So the same question, maybe since we're at the end of the hour also, I'll read out one question, maybe Satya, if you can respond to that and sum up these discussion. I think the question is about saying, how do we utilize this for doing something which is connected to the theme of the conference about agri-tech, edu-tech, this versus the high technology, gadgets, consumers, and the infrastructure industry. What is the focus and maybe what is the guidance that we should look forward from this team? So,
thank you, Naveen. If I connect the dots together with all the things which have been talked over 2 days, and some of us alluded to the key problems of the country, Ruchir and other people. If we look at the key problem of the country, at least in this conference, we tried to focus on the problems which we are collectively calling Atmas, agriculture, transformative education, medical, automobile, and strategic security. Collectively, we are giving it in basically in our Prime Minister style, we are giving it a name of Atmas. Now, if we are to make things happen in these areas, if you see what drives these technologies, if you look agriculture, medical, education, there is a lot of intervention of the IoT devices in all of those things. That's the one area which ultimately we need to produce the silicon. And this is a very excellent opportunity for innovators because IoT devices for these applications are not very complex. Like it's not a Intel microprocessor or AMD microprocessor, right? It can be done basically much cheaper. So that's the first opportunity. The second is basically the edge computing, which will affect all of these 5 areas of Atmas in various shape and form. Third, I will take basically your 5G and communication, all the technology around communication. I think we have very excellent academic and industrial talent in there. That's how we connect basically the application areas of Atmas to the semiconductor technology. We have to look at this in totality, and as I spoke in the morning, we have to create a comprehensive 15-year plan where we look at the Fabless, electronics product, applications, manufacturing, R&D, all of that in together. Now, for this session, I want to thank few more people who were instrumental in making it happen. First and foremost, Dr. E.V. Ramana Reddy, who was basically instrumental in making SFAL happen, Meena ma'am, and also not just our IT department, but Industry and Commerce Department, Mr. Gaurav Gupta and Gunjan, they were instrumental in making the whole thing happen. And the way I want to put the whole thing is that this effort has put the silicon back into the Silicon Valley. Going forward, a lot of us talked, we need to make this beginning as a national effort. It's a beginning. We have 20 odd companies working on this thing. So I'll put some goal in front of us. We need to have 100 fabulous companies in 5 years across India. Scale of the SFAL across the country. Geographic things don't matter because chip design is all virtual. It can be done from anywhere. Let's scale to at least 100 fabulous companies in the country. And the biggest goal or the challenge I want to put in front of all of us, create $5 billion of wafer demand from India fabulous company, and that approximately translate to 2 million wafers, 12-inch wafers. So I think that will tie up the manufacturing, everything together. if we can go to $5 billion of wafer demand from our fabless companies, I think then we would have done the fantastic job of SFAL and silicon. So thank you everyone for making it happen. The team behind and all those things, that were wonderful job. And let's move on to next this thing. But I think we need to make it a national effort with very, very specific and audacious goal to take forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Satya, and thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts. What I was observing that how closely each one of you have been involved in this initiative, that you were able to think about the questions, the thought process going up among the partners or the new entities which could be part of it. That was very well covered as we went around the table. Since we are at the end of the hour, I would like to finish this session to thank each one of you. And on behalf of the IESA team, to start with, Dr. Chandrasekhar, thank you for sharing your thoughts and your time.
Thank you.
Ma'am Meena, Nagaraj, thank you for taking time out and sharing your support and the policies that you're putting forward.
Thank you, Naveen.
Jesse, thank you for leading this always from the front and coming here and sharing and asking more people to join this.
Thank you.
Ruchir, thank you for sharing the success stories as well as the challenge to identify and playing on the strength. And last but not the least, Raja, thank you. I see how you are contributing with all the products and supports from your side, and we look forward for it in future as well. Thank you. Okay, and thanks to you, Satya, as well for summarizing and then closing this session. Okay, 3 perspectives. So this theme session has 3 speakers. We will be starting with the first speaker and go and listen from each one of them. To start with, may I request Dr. E.V. Ramana Reddy to switch on your video, unmute your audio.